So here I am standing in a sunken boat. There are two yogis pointing their flashlights at our faces. I suppose you would like to know, what are yogis? Yogis are what my friend Guy and I call park rangers. We named them yogis after the cartoon character Yogi Bear. They are Ontario provincial park officials. They have powers not unlike bylaw officers and have the authority to have you removed from the park. Early that morning, my friend Guy and I had discovered a sunken boat while walking the beach. If you happen to be experimenting with LSD, 3 o'clock in the morning is a great time to be walking the beach. Fortunately, Guy and I are not experimenting with LSD. We have perfected our scientific method, and no longer need to experiment. Currently we are benefiting from a rigorously tested and perfected technique. A word of caution: do not try this at home. We are qualified experts, and recommend the effects of lysergic acid diethylamide only be experienced within the strictest confines of a monitored and controlled environment. Or not. It's up to you. Guy is a friend whom I have known for years. He is a guitar buddy. We jam together all the time. He has a nice Ovation acoustic guitar with the rounded style carbon fiber back. It had a very nice warm sound to it. Guy was one of these people that everybody liked. He was generous, down to earth and very laid back. He never had a bad thing to say about anybody. Currently Guy and I are camping for the weekend at Killbear Provincial Park in southern Ontario. We thumbed up Friday and got a campsite for the weekend. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. In the 1970s you could do that. There were no reservations necessary and there were no waiting times to get a campsite at a provincial park. They had far fewer rules. You could still have fun. Guy and I grabbed a tent, our sleeping bags, some clothes and food and threw it all into our packs. Then we hitchhiked up to Killbear Park. We stopped at the office and got a campsite. Then we went and got set up for the weekend. Oh yes, by the way, I just remembered one little thing. I forgot to tell you. We brought a bag of purple microdot LSD with us. Not just 1 or 2 hits, but a whole baggie full. Enough LSD to last us a month, let alone 1 weekend. Purple microdot was a mild form of LSD. Not the kind of stuff that made you lose your mind and set you on your ass. Purple microdot gave you that LSD feeling and some mild hallucinations, but you would never lose control. If you have done some hallucinogens in the past you will understand what I mean. Guy and I spent the weekend high on purple microdot. We wandered all around the park, discovering the secrets of nature. Eventually we found ourselves on the shores of Georgian Bay, on one of Killbear Park's many beautiful beaches. It was late at night, and there were millions of stars shining over Georgian Bay in the night sky. We were miles from any town, and there was no man-made light pollution. We could see millions more stars from here than we could ever see from home. They really did look like pinpoints of light glowing in a velvety black sky. Add to that, Guy and I were tripping out on LSD. It's impossible to describe how incredible it was. Time passed by. Just how much time? I don't know. Eventually we decided to walk along the beach. We took our shoes and socks off and rolled up our pant legs. We started strolling back towards our campsite, swooshing through the water just off the shoreline at the edge of the beach. We were marveling at the feel of the water rushing past our feet and legs as we walked. Everything feels amazing when you're tripping out on LSD. It was just about then, one of us noticed the trails coming off our cigarette ends. The glowing ends of our cigarettes were leaving illusionary trails of light behind them when they moved. We pointed out this amazing phenomenon to each other and were transfixed. We purposely moved our cigarettes in random patterns just to watch the trails. Next someone added sound effects, and an amazing new world of sight and sound was born. For example, if you moved your cigarette around and around in a circular motion, it created an illusionary moving circle of light. You may add the sound effect swoosh swoosh swoosh, or if you were to move your cigarette in a downward zigzag pattern, you may add the sound effect swit, swit, swit. The combinations of sight and sound effects that Guy and I came up with seemed endless. The funniest effect of all was when Guy dotted the eye. All he did was bring his cigarette up and poked it forward in the air and then held it still, like the action you would use to dot an eye in mid-air with a pencil. Simultaneously he made a single clucking sound with his tongue and held the cigarette still. You had to be there. This was the funniest thing that had ever happened on Earth. Or so that's what we thought at the time. You have to keep in mind it was high on purple micro.LSD time. We almost fell into the water. We were laughing so hard. We continued to create our light shows and sound effects as we walked along the beach. We walked through the mouth of a stream, a sunken boat, then back into the water along the beach. I stopped and said, "Hey, Guy, did you feel that?" Guy said, "Feel what?" I said, "Come here, check this out." And I stepped back into the sunken boat. Guy followed me back into the sunken boat and we stood there. We both marveled over the difference in temperature of the water in the boat, and the water in the bay. The boat was an old flat-bottom wooden rowboat. It had been pulled up on the beach and abandoned. The bottom was full of sand and water. It looked like it had been there for years. Just an old derelict. We both stood in the water in the bottom of the abandoned boat and agreed that the water was nice and warm. Then I said to Guy, "Come here," and stepped out of the boat and into the mouth of the stream. He followed me over to the stream and said, "Oh, that's cold." I agreed it was cold, and then we both stepped back into the sunken boat where the water felt nice and warm. All day long the sun had been beating down on the pool of water in the bottom of the sunken boat. As a result of that, the water in the boat was warmer than the water in Georgian Bay. On the other hand, the water coming from the stream was much cooler than the water in the bay. We found these differences in temperature totally amazing. We had walked from bay to stream, then from stream to boat, then finally from boat back to bay. It wasn't until we were back in the bay that we realized the temperature differences. We were astounded. We had to confirm what we had discovered. So back to the boat we went from the bay, then back to the stream from the boat, and then finally back to the boat from the stream. The water in the stream was cold, but the water in the boat was much warmer. This is where we were standing, and what we were doing, when two uniformed yogis appeared out of the forest, and pointed their flashlights at us, right into our faces, blinding us. "What are you boys doing here?" asked one of the park rangers. Guy and I were both surprised and stunned at their sudden appearance. I quickly blurted out, "We're not stealing this boat." Then Guy said, "No, we're not stealing this boat." Then I told the yogis, "We were standing over there," and I pointed at the mouth of the stream. And Guy said, "Yeah, we were, but it was too cold over there," and he pointed at the stream as well. That's when I said, "So we came back here, to the boat, because it's a lot warmer." "Yeah," said my friend Guy, "this water is a lot warmer, but we're not stealing this boat. Honest, we're not stealing it." Just imagine what the park rangers thought when they found us. Two guys standing in a rotten old sunken rowboat full of sand and water just yakking away at each other at 3 in the morning is strange enough to begin with. But then they start babbling on about how they are not trying to steal this boat, and how it's cold over there, and it's warm over here, and we went over there, but it's cold over there, and so we came back over here, because it's warmer over here. And all the time they were gesturing and pointing at a stream a few feet away, at the sunken old boat they were standing in, and behind them to Georgian Bay. They must have thought we were on drugs. Well, we were. We were on LSD. We were flying. We were as high as a kite. We were totally ripped. The two yogis questioned us. They wanted to know who we were. They wanted to know where our campsite was. They must have thought we were harmless. All they did was escort us back to our campsite and left. Today medical institutions around the world are studying the effects of hallucinogenics on people suffering from various mental illnesses. Lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD, psilocybin mushrooms known commonly as magic mushrooms, and organic mescaline are only 3 of the many hallucinogenic drugs currently being studied for therapeutic use. They have all exhibited positive effects on various mental illnesses. People suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD, depression, and anxiety, have all shown improvements after experiencing medically supervised hallucinogenic therapy. They have reported very little or no ill effects. Today many countries offer hallucinogenic therapy in medically supervised clinics. These countries include both the United States and Canada as well as some European countries. Now the old saying "relax, take a pill" has a whole new meaning.